Hello and welcome to Untitled.mov, live from the south.
Great start, guys.
Great start.
One person not holding a mic.
Hello, welcome to Untitled.mov. As you may have guessed, we are, well, because physics is hard.
I don't believe in physics.
It was too difficult to get all of us in one place at the same time, so we got all of us in two places at the same time. Hello, the North.
Hello, the South. We're in the North.
The North. Up the North.
The ATEM's dropped off the network.
Okay, stay on the line until we get that fixed. Right.
Good.
What happened in the past month?
Good question. First of all, we're
Shit,
returning
I need to get the props.
Oh, it's going so well.
This is going brilliant.
This
Come
is the
on.
first
Props
live
to
show in a
Mark
few
for getting
months.
the props.
Does it show?
Power on. Power through. Power through. We
Welcome
have
back,
Mark's
Max.
back.
What have you just got?
Some months ago, you may remember that we talked about me doing a 10-kilometer race, and we talked about some sports tech. In the past month, I have done a slight extension to that. I did the Cambridge Half Marathon last weekend. And so we have the opportunity to get an update on sports tech. So, last time I talked about these right here. These are bone-conduction headphones. I actually have them in person here. These I bought for about like 20, maybe 30 quid off Amazon, and they sounded about as well as you would expect for that price. However, today I have bought these. Wait, shit, that's the wrong ones. Now, let's play a game of Spot the Difference. Can you spot the difference?
They look pretty identical to
They
me.
do
though.
look very similar.
Well, one of these cost about £100 more. And did not sound like ass.
Always useful when it's headphones.
Yes. The old ones I'm holding are branded HS1. Pretty sure they weren't made by the railway.
I was going to say, isn't that a train line?
Yes. These right here, like 30 quid off Amazon, trash. These are the Shocks Open Runs. Not sponsored, though I will happily take your money because these were fucking expensive. But they are good. I could actually hear them for like 90% of the race. It only got a bit hard to hear when there were lots of people and cheering and stuff around me. But for the rest of it, they held up surprisingly well. And they have the benefit that I don't have things in my ears when I'm going for a run, which means that I can actually hear when I'm about to be run over by a maniac driving an illegal modded e-bike, as is
Cambridge moment.
as is a bit of an occupational hazard when you are running around Cambridge.
Average Cambridge experience.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that literally happened I think exactly a week ago.
Have your legs recovered from the half marathon yet?
Just about. I have not run for like the past week, and then early last week when I went into the office and I went down the stairs for the first time, that was a mistake.
Ouch. Yeah. I bet your muscles felt that one.
They're better now. I was supposed to go for my first post-race run yesterday. Then we were on a call planning out this nonsense. You hear about that later, but the TLDR is I did not get to go for that run. Anyway,
Moving on.
what happened today?
Northerners. Where were you when you took this?
Well, funny you mention that, because we went on a little trip to Durham. And by we, I mean me, Emily, and Dan. Yeah, we did have to go to Durham. You were quite lucky. You missed. But yeah, we ended up going to Diggerland, didn't we?
It was very nice, yeah. Hour and a half drive, I think it was.
Yeah, it's funny because there's actually a Diggerland in Yorkshire. We just decided not to go to it.
I think the Durham one's meant to be
Isn't that...
the
Yeah,
big
I was going to
one,
say,
isn't
isn't
it?
the Durham one the Yorkshire one? Even though it's not in
No,
Yorkshire.
gonna
there's
say
a Yorkshire one,
Durham.
and
There's one
then
in
there's a
West
Durham one.
Yorkshire.
Marks,
Yeah.
where do you think Durham is?
I
Not
was
in
about to
Yorkshire.
say, you might want
I
to
know. Tell that to Diggerland.
Yeah, no, there is a Yorkshire one as well as the Durham one.
It's in Castleford.
So
What,
it
the
is.
Yorkshire one?
Yes.
That rings a bell. I feel like we've already had this conversation.
It's our next destination.
You're
Yeah,
going
that's where we're
full
headed.
trip.
Diggerland National Tour.
Yeah, we did mean to take a VT, but got slightly sidetracked with diggers. So what I have instead is this. which I'm about to cut to, is a various amount of words in some order. Sorry, I'm doing like 12 things at once.
Well, because Untitled.
7, camera 7, there we are. So, this is Dan in a truck.
Yo.
This is Dan also in a truck. That's me in a truck. We're going to speed through these, but we got to drive... Oh, there's a person in it. Whoops. This is Emily also in a truck. Here's Dan driving... what was it, Dan?
That vaguely looks like my haircut.
Some sort...
Was this the one that was worth 45 grand?
Oh, I cut to the wrong camera.
Whoops.
That might have
And multi-view went live.
that might have been the one that was worth, what was it?
45?
Something like that. It was a
Yeah.
very expensive digger that we got Dan driving.
Did any of you
and
crash the
also-
diggers?
No, there's a picture of Emily in the mirror of the truck because I didn't have a very good view.
Looking slightly confused.
Yeah,
Got the
my
spirit.
next error. Oh, there we are. Yeah, there's Emily driving a digger.
So the question is, how long did it take you to learn to drive a digger?
Oh, it was fairly
I think we
instant,
got
wasn't
about
it?
a 5-second tutorial.
Yeah, it was, here's the brake, take it off, put your foot down, off you go.
So if this whole
here's
TikTok thing
Emily-
doesn't work out, you've got a career path.
Yeah, we could all drive diggers. I mean, we had quite a day out. Here's Emily on a very, very fast and
I think
spinny...
you can only see my hands.
Yeah, it's quite a dark picture. Oh, there's us on a tractor. My next button isn't working. There we are.
Oh,
This is
yes.
us. Was it 50 feet in the air?
Yeah, 15
Shit me.
metres.
15 meters. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. Why does it work only half the time? Oh yeah. So yeah, we went up 50 feet in the air on this bucket of some sort of crane type thing, was it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's called the Sky Shuttle was the official name.
Yeah, and then there's the car park that we could see.
Ooh, can we see Dan's car?
It wasn't Dan's
or
car.
Emily's
we went-
car.
The little one. bottom
Really
left, the little
interesting
blue
shot
one.
of a car park there, guys.
Beautiful stuff.
The little
Stunning.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
that's
pretty.
very nice.
Would you recommend?
But yeah, that was kind of. Well, it was a fun day altogether. We had quite a bit of fun.
Okay, so Diggerland officially Untitled recommended.
Exactly, I would say. You know, they had stuff like this, which was you could basically do tire stacking using a little crane. It was actually really good fun. How many goes did we have at that at the end?
I think about 2 each.
Yeah, I think I must have been on 3 times.
Really?
I can't remember why.
Oh, that was a highlight.
Yeah, it was. We really enjoyed that one. It was
Yeah.
good. But yeah, so that was what the North got up to yesterday. Went out to Durham, of all places.
And speaking of vehicles, we have some other vehicular-related news. Matthew.
Ah, yes. So I was kind of, I had a couple weird software issues with my car. Like nothing breaking, but just like the Citroen app thing said, oh yeah, your car has an update. So I went through 5 years worth of trying to debug their stupid download software that doesn't work. And so on. It eventually managed to get a software download for my car to update it to the latest software. And seemingly, they don't give you any kind of release notes. No idea what was supposed to be in it. What I found out afterwards was that the random menu called Citroen Connected Services used to just do nothing. Now it does that, where you get 3 games to choose from. I've not tried any of them because why would you? But I guess they finally finished that menu off. You can't add any more games. And every other option that's like, oh yeah, well you can look at the health of your car on our app. Everything just opens a QR code that you can then do nothing with. Apart from answer the phone. No, answer the phone. Oh God. Yeah, no idea. Who knows why that's there? I've not used it. It's probably not very good. Congrats. A vehicle thing.
Speaking of congrats.
Just for when traffic's really bad.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure they just try to... Oh, yeah, we can do what Tesla can do with none of the horsepower required and none of the development effort.
Speaking of things that took no effort, Jamie and Kory, I heard you got up to some adventures with Behringer's digital mixers.
Well, yes. Oh, you do have the video. So, the story behind this was I was using an X32 as a 6-out audio interface. Honestly, it was a little overkill, but that's what I had. And then I realized it could also do MIDI control, and because I was mixing something, I used the I used the X32 to do MIDI control with the DAW I was using. Then Jamie came in with his X-Touch and
which is actually under the sofa.
On the sofa. And in the process of, we got the X-Touch working with X32 Edit to control the X32. Then I went, wait, I have a MIDI controller plugged into my laptop going to the X32 controlling the X32. The X32 can act as a MIDI controller. So I sent the X32 MIDI controls to X32 Edit to then control the X32 itself. So I was using the MIDI control fails on the X32 to control the actual fails of the X32.
That's cursed.
So you were using the X32 to control the X32 with about 8 extra steps?
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Yes.
It was basically pushing a fader on the desk with 12 extra steps.
You know what? I respect
And then went through my laptop over the it went from the X32 down USB to my laptop and then back through USB to the X32.
Vibes.
Speaking of vibes,
This was just an ad that I saw on my way to work in a tube station that made me laugh, because this is from the Croatian tourism board, I guess, trying to convince people to come to Dubrovnik. And what
they
they've
didn't
said
do a very
there
good job.
is, this train terminates at your dream destination. All change to Dubrovnik, which means by definition, Dubrovnik is not your dream destination. They've done a whole advert for Dubrovnik that says, you don't really want to come to Dubrovnik, do you?
You could go to your dream destination.
I have
Or
been to
you could
Dubrovnik
change.
once, and it was to board a ship to go somewhere else. So,
Yeah, that just amused me.
speaking of going places,
Yes, Dizzy, where did you go?
Yes. So in case you've not seen any Untitleds before, I am a massive Pokemon nerd. Hugh, I am literally currently wearing a t-shirt
way.
from the Pokemon International Championships, the European Internationals, because at the end of February, the European International Championships happened, and it was a lot of fun. I went, I played, I did not do brilliantly, but I did win a few games. It was good fun, met a lot of people, then went and played some side events with daft formats that you never see played anywhere else, because why would you play an entire format solely based around every card you play has to have a dice roll or a coin flip in it? It's just a lot of fun. And my personal favourite is this picture that was taken of me while I was competing on the first day. So I'm, concentrating very hard, looking at my deck, working out what I'm doing. But if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you can just see Beans, my Bulbasaur, staring straight into the camera. And every single match I had, he sat in the middle, and I began it all with, "Hi, I'm Dizzy. This is Beans. He will be observing." And it was a lot of fun. I had a really great time. I did not get anywhere near enough points to go to the World Championships, but I'm okay with that. I just had a lot of fun. Would recommend playing the Pokemon card game. It was cool. And then I also saw the international finals of the video game and the card game. Really famous players. And it was just really cool.
speaking of things that are not really cool, we have some more nonsense brought to you by our friends at Spotify and their daylist engine. What in the name of...
Yeah, I think the first one on there is mine, the Midwest Emo Anti-Folk Tuesday Night.
Then the middle one is, I think,
favourite.
mine. It's a rave doof Friday evening. Whatever the fuck that means. I mean, I can intuit. I can intuit what doof is supposed to be as a genre, but it just sounds fucking ridiculous.
And then the last one I think is also mine, the Banjo Acoustic Punk Sunday Afternoon.
Those words do not go together.
Yeah, they make sense individual, banjo acoustic. Sure, you expect that. Punk,
I
fair
love a
enough.
banjo in my punk.
Yeah, my personal favourite does have to be Marx's doof one though.
Doof, the music genre.
what does it mean?
If you find out, we'd like to know.
But from one recurring segment to another, it's time to look at this month in Don't Use Windows for Signage.
So, top left, we have something at Diggerland, seemingly.
Oh, yes, this was the TV display they had for like the health and safety video for kids. It was like, don't eat the grass. I wasn't really listening, but
You were probably
yeah,
the target
basically-
audience there, Jamie.
Well, yeah, they it was basically they were running it on a TV, which then was complaining about some sort of sourcing issue, which was quite funny. Dan got the snap there, but yeah, it was just we immediately walked in and went Windows for signage,
As you do.
as I always do whenever I enter any venue.
You've got to get it straight in.
Then the top right one is
Ayo.
mine. This was at the venue of the Cambridge Half Marathon. Unfortunately, I don't think the photo's the best because you could just about make out the Windows built-in video apps playback controls on that one. Always nice to see. Then bottom left. What is that?
Yeah.
Anyone
this was
recognise
Emily.
these?
Yeah, that was in town. So that was at an optician's that we walked past where they had a video playing on loop via Windows Media Player and they hadn't bothered to put it full screen.
And it was also Windows 7, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and I think it was
Oh.
about 10 o'clock at night, so it's just perpetually playing this video
Oh,
on
you know,
loop
all the
for all
lights were off in the
eternity.
store. It was literally just this monitor running Windows Media Player on Windows 7. It was brilliant.
I felt
That's
a bit sorry
amazing.
for it.
And then bottom right, your usual.
The bottom right one was mine. I took. So after, what was it after? Oh yeah, it was after we filmed something on YTV. We all decided to go to the pub afterwards, and in the pub, the uni lacrosse team were doing a charity pub quiz that they had up on all the screens in the pub. Except the pub quiz they were running was just running off of seemingly Google Slides that they decided not to full screen in Windows.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
quite
Well, it's difficult to get Google Slides like
I
that.
was about to say, it's quite difficult
Because
to
they've
do that.
had to full screen it into the window, but not get rid of the bottom bar of the. Well, how have they done that?
By
actually?
default, Google Sheets will full screen by
Google
any
Slides.
method. So Google Slides will full
Yeah.
screen by
Well-
any method. You then have to press F11 to cancel that.
Yeah.
What
So that's
version of
quite-
Windows was
That's
that?
impressive how they've done that.
What version of Windows was it? It feels like.
That appears to be 10.
Oh, okay. Because I think Windows 7 had an interesting idea of what full screen was in a browser. But if it's Windows 10, I don't know.
Right.
There just isn't an excuse at that point. It's just funny.
Yeah. And then finally, before we head on to the news, you lot went and did something interesting earlier, didn't you? Well, it was a while back.
What?
This is the thing you put into the doc, you bark.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes, it's on the wrong screen.
He has the Google Doc.
Oh, yeah, that's a perfect Google Doc. Thank you. Yeah, so do you want to explain about the lights?
Yeah, so they had this display over Christmas in York where they had projection mapping all across the Minster. So they placed projectors, a mixture of outside and inside in office buildings. And it was basically part of this scheme to try and attract more tourists to the town centre over the winter months. And they were really nice projections. They sort of showcased a mix of York's heritage, so going from the Vikings to the Middle Ages to the Industrial Revolution, and also showcased the wildlife that York has. So, for example, like there's a specific species of beetle that is only found in 2 places in the world. And the company that produced these projections claimed that they attracted 45,000 people.
I mean, when we went, we saw a load of people with suitcases who looked like they just got from the station. So maybe it worked. Who knows?
It
We
looks
can't
really
judge.
cool, regardless of whether it works.
It was interesting because they had some audio playing at the same time, with absolutely no bass.
Oh.
It was just kind of just noises, and then you go, "Oh, it's the bass is about to start," and then it just wouldn't exist.
They forgot to plug the subwoofer in.
Yeah.
Cable
possibly.
fell out.
Good shit.
The thing is, it was at first we watched it about 6 times, and the first few we were kind of looking at it and going, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And then we found a QR code on the trailer that had 2 of the projectors in it, and scanned it, and it was actually really interesting information. It told you what each bit of the projection represented, what bit of history it was talking about. It was quite good actually. Learnt a lot.
Lights,
hear.
cool.
But now it's time for the news.
Where you are. And we begin with a big announcement from Microsoft.
Skype.
RIP.
F in chat.
Oh, yes.
Emily, do you want to tell
I'm
us
very
more?
sad about this one. This was always the platform of choice with me and my parents. We all throughout uni we communicated via Skype, so we're heartbroken that it's closing in May. And apparently it's part of a wider scheme that Microsoft are trying to transition those people towards Microsoft Teams instead. So
Can I get the last post for Skype?
Yes, exactly.
Why would you want to use Teams A, voluntarily, and B, at home?
The funny thing is, I know someone...
Oh yeah, let me just call my grandma on Teams.
You
traumatic.
joke, a friend
How
of mine does
Microsoft
mainly
had
communicate
Skype
with
and
his
somehow
dad over
lost to
Teams.
Zoom, I still don't know.
Yeah.
That's so cursed. Teams is work and work alone. Why? No.
Yeah.
Well, they have Teams for families or something.
Yep.
Something
Yeah,
like
they do.
that, because it's like in Windows 11, they no longer had Skype as one of the default applications, and it was sort of to try and push people towards Teams instead.
They're trying
but I
so
think
hard.
Yeah,
I
I
it's
got
part-
so far.
it's part of
Speaking
the
of
wider-
people who tried
been
so
a
far and
movement
got
of
so far but
people-
didn't really matter.
Oi.
I think it's because there's been sort of people have been moving to Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp instead for like family communication. So I think that's one of the big culprits of it, because Skype was one of the first sort of voice over internet protocols, and it's sort of, I think loads of people grew up using it. So there's sort of now going to be like a generation almost of people that are going to have to find a new platform to move to.
Exactly.
When did Microsoft buy Skype?
It was 2011.
Oh.
So they bought it for $8.5 billion, which was their biggest purchase apparently at the time. So it's very sad. I mean, my family and I are having to find a new platform to move to. So we've been
Microsoft
doing
Teams.
Signal,
Not Teams.
not
No.
Teams.
No.
But they helpfully
And we're
pre-installed it for
really
you, I
enjoying
bet.
using Signal. Yeah. No, it's been good because Signal, you've got the end-to-end encryption. It's open
Classic.
source.
Even
and
better.
One thing that my family really like is that your account is you can set up your account so it's only discoverable by others by your username rather than phone number. So it's that extra layer of privacy.
It means you can't just be randomly added to chats if they have
Yeah.
your mobile number. But yeah, also another cool thing about Skype is you could set it in settings to automatically accept video calls, which was always hilarious in
That's
COVID.
risky.
Just see what happens.
I'd just get a call from someone and it would auto accept and go, "Oh, hello, I was eating lunch."
That's terrifying.
I want that now.
We did it as a joke. But yeah.
Hello, I'm
That's kind
on
of
the
cool. I
loo.
kind of want that. Which you could select certain people for it to auto accept from.
Yeah, no, it was all or nothing. But anyway, should we move on to the news?
This
is
the news.
Should we move on to
The next
should we
item of
move
the
on
news.
to
So
the second bit of news.
our favorite company, Meta, found themselves in a bit of hot water in that they are being sued by some authors that Meta trained their large language models on LibGen, which is, for those who in the know, is essentially a repository of pirated books. Naughty, naughty. Now, there's
I
a
had
couple.
no idea
There's a
about
couple
that,
funny
actually.
things that have come out of this. First of all, in a court filing, where Meta employee emails were subpoenaed. One of them was quoted as saying, "Torrenting from a corporate laptop doesn't feel right." Things that you want to say in a court
Yeah.
filing. But now they have another court filing, the same case, so the quote, Meta took precautions not to seed any downloaded files. In other words, Meta's legal argument is that the torrenting of books they did wasn't illegal because they didn't actually seed it, they only leached it.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that's how that works, boss.
That's
I mean,
well,
I guess they
actually,
didn't distribute it, but it's still theft, right?
yeah.
Well, something debatable nature of intellectual property theft, which we're not going to get into now
Well,
because
yeah,
it
there
is
is
rather
that.
controversial.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Anyway.
I mean,
We doing more news, or are you saying something, Kory?
no. No.
Oh, okay. More news then.
more news. Yes, something that has been many years, if not, I think even decades, in the works, but the project had been somewhat accelerated by, say, recent geopolitical events in Eastern Europe. The Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, for those of you who failed GCSE geography,
Didn't take it.
Which one?
Have-
Sorry, Marks.
they, for the longest time, ever since the Soviet times, their electrical grid was connected to that of the rest of Russia and some of the other eastern states. But as of last month, I believe, they have finally disconnected from the Russian grid and now fully connected to the continental European grid, which is more difficult than you think because essentially in an electrical grid, every single generator and every single user has to be
Generator? I hardly know her.
Has to be running at exactly the same frequency and all have to be in phase. So it's not just that the AC current goes up and down at the same speed. The ups and the downs need to be perfectly aligned, like as in down to the microseconds for everything on the grid. And so the way that they did it is that first they disconnected from the Russian grid. Then for essentially a day, the Baltics were in what were described as island mode, which is when they were operating entirely self-sufficiently off of their own electricity capacity while they did some tests and shuffled some things around. And then the next day, they connected to the European grid and have been there for the longest time, which is not only a good thing from a energy safety perspective, but it's also just a really impressive technical achievement because it's something that's really difficult to do.
Were they going from like 50 hertz to 50 hertz? Or
Yes.
yeah,
It was 50 to 50, but it was phase. That was the main thing.
yeah. So at least there isn't.
All the lights start flickering.
Well, I was just hoping that they're glad that there wasn't like a case where the people have got clocks that are synchronized to the mains, and suddenly the clocks
there
will
will
run.
have been.
Yeah.
Oh,
But they,
I mean,
they
that would
made
be
it
funny.
work.
Nice. Well, at least
standard time.
they're still better than Japan, who can't decide what their
Haven't
frequency
they got
is.
two different, a 50 hertz and a 60
Yeah.
hertz grid within the same country?
Yeah, I
Yep.
heard about that.
Yeah.
It's cursed.
Yeah.
In
Why?
more Baltic news. Yes, the Observati Latvia. Latvia's the first ever Latvian film to win an Oscar happened. I am very excited about this.
Can you tell Marx is Latvian?
Not only is Flow a really,
Please cut
really
to
good
us.
film, it has zero dialogue and it has brilliant storytelling, but also it was made entirely in Blender.
Hardly know her.
And it won an Oscar and a Golden Globe.
We have a request to point to the north. There we go.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, and the part that I enjoyed the most is everyone in the Oscar ceremony completely butchering the pronunciation of Gint Zilbalodis and Mati Skaja. It was quite something. But yes, immense national pride here. And also, I think it's the first ever film that was made entirely in Blender to win an Oscar, which is
That is
so
quite cool.
good.
As much
So
as I love the Latvian national anthem, I can't hear Marx.
God's
Is that a
sake.
bad thing?
No, that's just for you. But I'll
You're getting a phone call.
let me give you a little bit less of the national anthem. There you go.
Kory, have you got slightly less of the national anthem now?
Sorry, I still can't hear you, Marx.
Shall we move on?
Yes, let's move on to the next news.
Oh, I want to talk
We
about
love
Flow.
Humane here on
What's Mark
Untitled and talking about them. And this month we got the news that they have sold themselves to HP for $116 million.
It is now HP for Humane Pin.
Would you believe... That's annoyingly good.
God's sake.
Would you believe, we were really optimistic, all of us, about this product, and
Yeah, totally.
I
then
really
it-
thought that
yeah.
by now we would all be walking around with little projectors clipped to our t-shirts so that we could look at the weather and accept phone calls on the palms of our hands.
Now I've just got a mental image of Jamie walking around with a full, university AV projector gaffer taped to his middle.
His middle?
My favourite form of tech use, really.
But my favourite bit about this
what's
is
happening?
obviously so they've sold themselves. That's the team and their IP. But the Humane pins that people have actually bought are essentially going to be bricked. They're going to cease service. The cellular service that they run for it is going to
Spotify car thing.
And so obviously, as happens when these sorts of acqui-hires happen, they put out an FAQs for people who actually bought an AI pin. And one of the questions was, is the pin going to stop working? And I said, no, certain functions like making phone calls and using AI Assistant will not be available. However, you will be able to use...
Sorry.
No, wait, I'm
Sorry.
getting to the best bit. You will still be able to use offline functions such as checking the battery level. Oh, great. Just what I've always needed, a device that can tell me how much battery the device that tells me how much battery it has. And nothing else.
Do you know what else can do that? A battery!
Oh, that's great.
I mean, it's probably as useful AI as AI normally is, so, yeah.
Actually, I'd argue
I was about to
it's
say-
more useful now than it used to be.
Genuinely,
Yeah.
there was not a longer list of functionality. It just said offline functionality such as checking the battery level of the device.
Oh,
We love you, Humane. Good on you for trying something. It was monumentally stupid, and surprisingly, it didn't work.
and yet
But
somehow
Yeah.
worth $116 million.
yeah, I wonder what HP will do with that technology.
Pre-install it on every device they ship from now on end.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that should really be pre-installed on every device.
Oh yeah, this is right up our alley. This is by the same person who made 1 million checkboxes, which we talked about before. And it is a global CaPSloCk key. So everyone who installed this, when they hit the CaPSloCk button, it would toggle for everyone who installed this software. It's over now, unfortunately. You can't use it anymore. But what a great idea.
Yeah. Why not open source your CaPSloCk key? You need to write something, grammatically correct? No. Just let random strangers on the internet decide when your CaPSloCk is going to go on.
Oh my goodness! I'm just looking on at the GitHub repo on Kory's laptop, and the way the README has been written hurts my soul. It looks like it was written whilst the tool was active on their laptop.
Yes.
Also,
it was.
here's the thing. Yes, their server is no longer running, but you can run your own CaPSloCk server. I mean, if we wanted to also synchronize our CaPSloCk keys, we could still do it.
Oh, that would be.
Oh, now that.
We'll do that.
I think we should do that.
You know, most people have like friendship bracelets or whatever. Not Untitled.
Can we sync
have
our CaPSloCk?
synchronized CaPSloCk.
I'm going to install it on all the other PCs of YCV and see how long it takes people to notice.
Do it. That would be amazing.
Next up, Kory.
course, they're
Framework
anti-UI.
held an event recently. Would you like to tell us a bit about what they announced?
Framework. Yes, so Framework had an event. I didn't actually watch the event. I read back what they announced afterwards because I was busy during the event. But so firstly they announced for context, since last episode I've also bought a Framework. That might help.
I noticed and I am very
Yeah, where
I
jealous.
was going to say I didn't think you used to have one. Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. It's quite nice. It's a lot better than my last laptop where the screen didn't work.
How many
Yeah.
times
guess that would
has
help really,
your
wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's got a working screen.
how many times has
where was
your
I? So they announced.
how many times has your
Sorry, go on,
USB
Max.
port been stolen from it?
Well, no, Jamie, no.
And how
mine
many
now-
of those thieveries were Jamie?
Actually, not a lot.
I've only nicked it once.
Quite often, I will lock my computer, walk away to go to the toilet, and come back and find my USB port's gone.
It's not
That's
me.
more of a problem with my friends, not with the laptop.
Yeah, you need to make better friends.
I need to make better friends. Speaking of losing your USB ports, though, one of the big announcements from the new Framework event is the Framework 12, which is do you call them a 2-in-1 or a 3-in-1? The ones one of those laptops that flips over. And has a
Oh,
touch
yeah, like the
screen.
360-degree one where you can use it as a tablet as well.
Yeah.
PC.
Yeah.
It's a tablet PC, first Framework with a touchscreen. It flips over, and it actually has a lock, so you can screw in and lock the ports in if you wish to.
I actually really like this. I wasn't aware of this laptop, but I actually really like the sound
You
of it.
were. I told you about it when it got announced.
That's not saying much.
Since then.
Yeah.
But I actually, because the one problem I had with frameworks was I quite like I say I like a touchscreen. Neither of my main daily drivers, my work one or my... I just realised this has my work logo on the back of it. Anyway.
Well, you've got a hell of an edit job, Cameron.
We're live, Marks.
Sorry?
Whoops.
Said some words there. Anyway, my point was neither my work laptop nor my personal laptop are touchscreen, but I do quite like a touchscreen, so I don't know.
Yeah. So it also seems because it's meant to be they haven't announced prices, I don't believe, but it's meant to be like quite a budget option. So it seemed like a bit like they're trying to aim it towards schools and stuff as well, which might be an interesting to see how that goes.
They do know their demographic, though, if they are adding in the ability to lock the ports, because they know that a lot of people have mates to nick
them aiming it at
everything.
schools, so you don't have little Timmy throwing a USB port across the classroom.
As funny as that would be, Untitled does not condone violence.
Or throwing USB ports
does
around.
not condone violence. They
Unless
also
it's comical.
and no. They also announced something that didn't make a lot of sense to me when I first heard about it. But the idea of it has grown on me since, which they announced the Framework desktop.
Oh,
Isn't that just
So-
a desktop?
yeah.
see, I was about to say,
This-
it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but you explained it.
I
didn't
explained it
you?
well. So basically, AMD released this processor. I can't remember the actual name of the processor, but inside is an integrated GPU that they're calling the... Actually, I don't know if this is the name of the GPU or just the name of the processor. It's in one of their processors, the Ryzen Strix Halo, which is pretty much an integrated GPU in their processor that boasts performance and has, seemingly from what I can tell, tested performance around the same level as like the mobile 47, like RTX 4070s.
Okay.
Not discrete 4070s, but the mobile 4070s on the CPU die.
That's not bad.
The only problem is to put it in a laptop, which is a laptop chip, you need like a pretty big motherboard redesign, which is why it's not being seen in a lot of laptops at the moment. So Framework went, well, we can't do all that, but what we could do is release a really small form factor desktop with them in. So they made the Framework desktop, which
It's got interchangeable
it does have
ports
interchangeable
at the
ports on the
bottom.
front. It takes expansion ports on the front. Yeah. So basically, that's what made sense to me when I saw the size of it, and I realized this is Framework's answer to a Mac Mini.
Ah, okay.
It's
That
easily
makes
budget optioned for quite a lot of performance. It starts at 1,100.
Which is more than a Mac
Which-
Mini.
It's just more. Well, okay, more than a Mac Mini, but it's also more powerful than the start of Mac Minis.
fair enough.
Because the £500 Mac Mini comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you want 16, it's about 800. And that's with like 128 gigabyte storage. So yes, it is a bit more expensive than the £500 Mac Minis, but yeah, you're gonna pay that anyways for a desktop. And like, if it does borrow the performance that it claims, I think it's a really interesting option for those like that really small form factor builds with the repairability of a framework.
I mean, the repairability of a desktop, but
Yeah, but it's well, not exactly, because you can't buy this CPU on the market. So
Well, not only that, but I think it's soldered on RAM and stuff as well, isn't it? It's very much...
that is the one problem with it. It's soldered
Yeah.
on RAM, but that's because the CPU literally physically can't support anything else.
Yeah.
They tried to work with AMD.
It's
I have a problem with
effectively-
they tried to work with AMD on a solution.
Yeah, it's one of their laptop boards, but in a desktop
Yeah, it's
box
pretty much a
with
laptop
more ports on the side.
Ah, okay. That makes more
That's
sense.
pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Next
yeah, I think
up.
it's an interesting little box. It makes it a lot. Once I realized the Mac Mini comparison, it made a lot more sense to me than it's just a desktop. Because I think it's Mini ITX, but it might be a bit smaller than Mini ITX. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked at the actual
Dimensions is the word you're looking for.
dimensions. There's the word. But yeah, so there's that, and then they announced a couple more main boards for like the Framework 13. They announced the new keyboard like literally like a week after for the 13 after I bought mine. I'm very upset about it
F.
because what they did was they changed out the metal inside the keyboard module for, I think it's a type of plastic. I don't remember. But the reason they did that is the metal would sometimes, if you had your speakers really loud, resonate with the sound and create a little buzz that I have noticed with mine. So I might be in the market for a new keyboard soon. They also finally released keyboards that don't have the Windows key and have the Framework logo instead of the Windows key, which I would have bought if I had the option. So that's
I mean,
annoying
you
me a
can
little.
3D print that, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, surely, or I could just get a new keyboard as I was going to anyway.
I was just going to say, you just get a single piece, get a piece of tape, and then Sharpie the...
I'm not sharping. I don't care about that much, but it would just be nice if... Okay.
Okay.
Regardless, I was like, oh, I would have bought one with that keyboard if I thought of that. I went, oh wait, I have a framework. I can just swap out the keyboard. So I might do that.
Yeah, that's almost as if it's one of the key selling points. Anyway, should we go to the next bit
That's
of
why
news?
I bought the laptop.
Yeah. Next bit of news.
Next bit of news.
Yeah, we're back over to you, Emily, because you
yeah.
you noticed something earlier in the week about NDI by it's not New
It is new tech.
It is new tech. I thought it was going insane. The NDI protocol by new tech.
Nah, it's old tech.
They've unveiled some new features and things. haven't
Yeah, well, they've proposed a new metadata standard with the intention that it will provide like a unified kind of solution to live events where you can basically remotely manage via a singular workflow. So they're proposing the introduction of the audio standard MIDI, the lighting control standard DMX, and also support for broadcast standards, including C8708, which is a closed captioning standard in the US, and SCTE 104, which is a set of protocols for inserting digital cues into a TV program.
It's a protocol
sort
to
of-
fire ads.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's basically they are proposing that it'll allow a greater sort of automation of events where you can just have all of your data running across a singular protocol essentially. So it's like a singular stream of audio, camera tracking, video, and even lighting data. And they sort of, it's been highlighted one particular advantage is you can more easily sync camera tracking data with your video stream if you've got like PTZs or something like that. So we shall see how this comes into force.
We've gone past everything over one cable now. We've gone so far as to everything over one protocol on that one cable.
Yeah.
It's
I
the
think
grand unified
it does sound like
theory.
a good idea for live events.
DMX over NDI just shouts
about to
not
say,
going to work. That just
right.
shouts, ooh, that's going to
We're
work.
Well,
currently
you
using
say that.
NDI. We're currently using NDI to like get my laptop into my ATEM, for example. But it's not really. I mean, I'm on wireless, so it's not great after all. But it's not really something I would particularly want to trust at a live event. It just. I don't know, NDI is really good, but it's not something I would ever want to put a lot of trust in at a live event. I mean, here's a video from NDI.
NDI strikes me as we could use it to get a laptop to like a TV like on screen, but like I'd never trust it with like anything broadcast critical, if that makes sense.
I mean, one thing that I can see would be the advantage would be for people working on a lower scale and sort of breaking down that barrier of having to have all your different sort of equipment, all your different protocols, and instead just have it that you've got one streamlined kind of standard.
The thing is, right, you say not having to have all the equipment. To use the MX, you still need the lights. You still need some way of getting that DMX from the NDI to the light.
True.
But the thing is, you're still gonna have, it's
all
kind
about
of training almost. It's
Yeah.
you just need one person who really understands NDI.
Yeah, it's all about convenience as well,
Exactly.
isn't it? So
You've got one kind of control system. You go, oh well, that shat the bed. Let's go check what NDI is doing. You don't have to go, well, that shat the bed. Is it this, that, this? It might be that. I mean, you'll still have a bit of that, but
I'm kind of
1,000
questioning.
different things running on a Windows machine.
I'm kind of questioning, right? Like, we already have DMX over network. It's called ArtNet. So why doesn't it support that? They like.
They wanted it to be special.
I mean, probably they just wanted to streamline it into their own protocol. Also, they're proprietary.
yeah, I think.
I
it's
mean,
one of these
so is
things that
everything
because
else.
we're going to do it.
Yeah, I imagine it's either licensing or they wanted to streamline it and make it better. Or better.
Sorry, we were distracted by the fact that Dizzy opened their phone and the first thing that they saw was AO3. If you know, you know.
I opened my browser to, look up a couple of things for the next bit of news to, make sure I was informing you all correctly. And it just happened that the last thing I opened on my browser was AO3. But that's beside the point. Anyway, should we get on to the next bit of news?
Yeah, what the hell does this mean?
So, it's a physics thing, unsurprisingly. So a supersolid is it's like a cross. The easiest way to kind of visualize it is it's kind of part solid, part liquid, but not in the way that you'd think about that. It's completely just no viscosity, so it's just. and other normal sentences. It's when you freeze things stupidly cold. So a state of matter called a Bose-Einstein condensate is where all the particles within a substance start acting as one because it's that cold. If you start freezing things beyond a Bose-Einstein condensate, then you can sometimes get supersolids. And scientists managed to, like, these random Italian researchers managed to turn light into a supersolid.
Okay, but it's light. So,
Yes.
like, how? Or what does that mean?
Yes, it's because light is really weird.
It's
Citation
not
needed.
a thing. It's
Yeah, it's the... Ooh, I've just dropped Marx's Apple Pencil in my excitement.
Is it a solid or is it a wave?
Well, you
Not
see...
a solid, sorry. Is it a particle or is it a wave?
Yes. And that's why it does all this weird stuff that you wouldn't expect. Because, like, pretty much all particles you can see as both solids or waves. Like, electrons, you can treat them as waves. Light, you can treat it as waves and particles. Like, where was that bit from the article that I saw? Yeah, that was it. About a decade ago, a scientist did prove that light could act like a fluid, but what they managed to do this time is go a step beyond that and turn it into a quantum supersolid, which it's just really cool. Like, they managed to freeze light with zero viscosity. Yeah. It's just kind of cool.
It is cool. I still don't understand it, but it is cool.
Yeah, it's less about the, like, freezing light and more the fact that they've managed to, create a supersolid, which is a state of matter that it's quite hard to make, let alone make it out of light.
And now for what our friends from the north are sending us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
You weren't meant to cut to that.
Well, then why are you sending it to us?
It's been on a monitor physically in the room for that entire segment.
I'm talking
I know,
about
I
physics.
thought it might be.
The actual
This was
This
was me and Emily chasing after Dan in an intense police chase. He wouldn't pull over.
Mark, do you want to talk
We
about
did catch
TypeScript
up.
and rewriting it in Go?
Only when he
Yes.
parked.
So, TypeScript is a programming language that is, what if we could make JavaScript suck less? Because JavaScript is a language that basically everyone and their grandma uses because it's in every single web browser. And it also kind of sucks because there's lots of really easy mistakes that you can make, like things like assuming that a number is a string or vice versa. Or there's various things about handling values that may or may not exist. And so TypeScript is a tool that essentially checks your code for it's what's called static type checking. It essentially looks over your code and goes, hang on, that function is meant to take a number, but you're giving it a string. Are you sure you meant to do that? Now, for big code bases, TypeScript can be a bit slow. And part of the reason for that is that TypeScript is written in TypeScript, which...
Strange, that.
Well, it's actually a fairly common thing for a programming language compiler to be written in that programming language. It's called bootstrapping.
Fair enough.
Because it validates that the compiler is useful. And what that means is that TypeScript itself, as in the TypeScript type checker and compiler, gets compiled to JavaScript and then run through Node.js. But that still has a fair bit of overhead. For instance, it has to parse and compile all of the JavaScript code, which can add a fair bit of measurable startup latency. And so they rewrote it in Go, which is a ahead of time compiled language supposed to do such binary native code that your computer can run. Now, and they claim that, for example, on type checking all of the Visual Studio Code base, which is written in TypeScript, it is over 10 times faster. Now, one interesting thing about this is that Anders Hejlsberg, the man over there, who is the lead architect of TypeScript, is also the lead architect of another programming language that is widely used and developed by Microsoft. Yeah, TypeScript developed by Microsoft. That programming language being C#. And so there were some questions raised as to, well, A, why didn't he choose to do it in C#? And B, as is the perennial question asked for anything written in a computer programming language ever these days, why didn't they choose to write it in Rust? And he actually gave a very interesting answer to, which is, in short, a lot of the TypeScript codebase practices map very well onto Go code, and they don't map very well onto Rust code or C# code, because like TypeScript doesn't actually use that many classes and objects. It uses a lot of data structures and functions, which is what Go is good at. And what they were doing is they were not doing actually calling it a rewrite is sort of wrong because it's a port. As in, they took a function that was written in TypeScript and rewrote that function in Go, but then that function still did the same thing as it did in TypeScript, and it called other functions that did the same thing as it did in the original TypeScript implementation. Whereas if they were to rewrite a language like C# or Rust or something like that, they'd have to rethink a lot of how the compiler code is architected. Whereas here, they could effectively do a mechanical line-by-line port. And in fact, if you open the original TypeScript source code in a split screen with the new Go code, it is surprisingly similar. And another reason why they did this is that there's still a large ecosystem around the original TypeScript implementation for things like plugins and such, which they're going to need to maintain for at least the foreseeable future until the entire ecosystem has moved on to the native version. And so having the code be extremely similar in both languages means that they can do that far more easily, because if they need to make a change to one, it'll be a very similar change they need to make to the other. So TypeScript in Go is rolling out soon. You can look at the GitHub repo, and you can run it. There's obviously a few features missing, but the initial impressions that I've seen in the community once you get over the Rust fanatics are actually really positive.
Nice.
And speaking of things that would benefit from a faster TypeScript compiler, you pressed the wrong button.
Yeah, but it's funny that the North was sending us digger footage again.
Let me try that again. Speaking of...
Jamie's gone bored.
Jamie's always bored.
Speaking of things that would benefit from the TypeScript compiler being faster, some insane people made Doom run in the TypeScript type checker. I'll put it this way. The TypeScript type checker is meant to check types in TypeScript programs. It's not meant to run programs itself. It's definitely not meant to have a full WebAssembly virtual machine in it, and it's definitely not being able to supposed to emulate a string type that just happens to match the first frame of the Doom title screen.
Counterpoint, if it exists and it's remotely computational, it can run Doom, and it will run Doom.
Now, I listened to an interview with the insane person who did this, who actually explained why he did it, which is not to prove that it's possible, because it was known that the TypeScript type system is Turing complete for a while. The reason he did it is partly as a personal curiosity to find why it would be impossible to run Doom in the TypeScript type checker. Like, he was thinking that every time he would hit some obstacle that means it is either computationally infeasible, it would take longer than the amount of time humans have left to live in the universe to evaluate Doom in the TypeScript program language. The problem is, every time he hit an obstacle like that, he found a solution to it.
And realized that it just actually can run Doom.
Yes. The end result was 177 terabytes of computer TypeScript types, and rendering just the first frame of the Doom main menu took 12 days.
Amazing.
I love...
Why?
Well, at least you can tell it wasn't written by hand anymore. Presumably there was a tool he built a tool to generate.
Well, what they did is they took Doom compiled for WebAssembly. Like, you could just take a C compiler and, you could take a C compiler, have it emit WebAssembly.
Yep.
And then they made a WebAssembly interpreter in TypeScript types. So in theory, it can run anything that could be compiled to WebAssembly.
Oh, good. So you can run Windows 95 in TypeScript.
Yes, you could run Windows 95 in the TypeScript type system. Speaking of other things that can run Doom...
Yes, speaking of running Doom on shite, so I haven't actually looked at this one much, but I was giving it. I assume Cameron will be talking about it because it involves Apple, but I guess it's me.
I mean, I somewhat know about this stuff.
Apple make a Lightning to HDMI adapter. That Lightning to HDMI adapter has compute. And as Dizzy said earlier, if it has compute, it will run Doom.
Not only it can, but it will.
Oh.
So, yes.
I'll tell you why it has compute. Would you like to know why it has compute?
Go. Explain why it has compute, because this is what I'm not entirely sure on.
Sure. So, essentially, Lightning, unlike the the iPod 30-pin connector, which had composite video straight out of the pins. It just had 30 pins. It could do whatever you want with. But Lightning is basically just for a normal consumer, there are magic modes that you can use special Apple tools to talk with, but generally it's just USB. And for people that want to know, Marx is changing a battery.
Oh, that's what happened to that camera.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, essentially, Apple put themselves into a bit of a hole where Lightning is just USB 2.
Yes.
And so they essentially need to do a display link where they send HDMI over USB 2. And that means that the device has to be special and be able to reconvert USB 2 back into HDMI again. So that's why you have a dongle that's got something like 4 megs of RAM. Or no, it was like 48...
256 megabytes of RAM.
Yeah, a lot of RAM and a CPU core with a lot of grunt because it's got to essentially do decompression.
400 megahertz of grunt.
Yeah.
Damn.
And that's
more than a TypeScript type checker.
So, yeah, you just got to feed it the program. I don't think it's got much internal storage, so you kind of have to feed it the program over the Lightning port.
Over the connection, I assume.
Yeah, which is interesting to demo because you essentially, despite the fact that you're trying to prove that the demo can play, the dongle can play Doom, you have to feed it with a special iPhone that's probably been routed so that you can send Doom down the Lightning cable. So
I think on the picture I'm looking at, they were using a Mac.
Right. So it's probably
I don't know if it's easier to send from the Mac or if you also need to.
I think one of the special modes, one of the special modes of Lightning, is that you can send effectively like serial debug like you would on an ARM processor. So they're probably using it like that.
That's probably what they ended up doing.
Cool. Stupid, but cool.
Speaking of other things that are stupid and cool and involve running Doom in things that Doom shouldn't be run.
Yes. So last week we talked about not last week, sorry. Last
month.
episode we talked about running Tetris in a PDF. So now you can run Doom in a PDF. Someone's took that and decided to run Doom in a PDF. Jamie cut the camera on. So I have here PDF Doom. And just as a demo of the performance of PDF Doom, this is me real time playing PDF Doom.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm gonna try and beat this level. It's deciding not to work for me. Jim, can you hold my microphone?
Yeah, go on then.
I don't even know if it has mouse control. No, it doesn't have mouse control. Come on. No, that's fire. Which one's use again? Okay, that's use.
Vision mixer
For context,
inception.
I have ran this level a lot faster. I did use to speedrun this level. I'm also playing it very small on a multi-view across the room.
So are we, apparently.
Yes.
Oh, that button does not do what I thought it would.
That's a wall. Okay, it's been black and white, which is quite hard to see. Jamie, I've lost my...
No, I'm working on it.
It's the actual speed and semi-competency at which it's running is iconic.
Yeah, it's playable
Yeah, I'm
somewhat.
impressed. Please tell me that is 100%
I vaguely know
maxing
where I
out
am
a
in the
CPU
level.
core.
I maybe. Okay, right.
Like, a lot of the others were just, it took 8.5 years to register 2 frames. Nah, this is fully just playable Doom, and I love it.
It's in a PDF file.
That
It sometimes loses my forward momentum, but other than that, it's... Jamie, what are you doing with our output?
Don't worry about it.
Hearing Jamie say don't worry about it is always mildly terrifying.
But speaking of other things that you could run in a
That's like
PDF that you shouldn't run in a PDF.
No, I'm nearly finished with the level, Marks.
Okay, well, we'll let Kory play Doom for a bit.
Hold on, I'm nearly there. This is the last room.
But Mum said it's my turn on the PDF.
Can someone please do...
Level.
Yay!
What's my time?
Can we send this to
I
fax?
can't read.
Because,
Can we fax Doom?
Yeah,
No, but the important question, is there a speedrun.com Doom subsection for
there
PDF
has to
Doom?
be.
That is a very good question. And
I'm going to look that up right now.
I desperately, desperately hope there is, because it's exactly the kind of thing that Doom speedrunners would do.
Oh, if there is, then I'm running it.
Do it. live stream.
Oh no, they moved Doom. They moved Doom off of speedrun.com to Doom runs. Oh.
Ooh. Well, open Doom runs
So
then.
this is Doom speedrunning drama that I'm not a fan of. Not the bounds of this Untitled. Let's move on.
Let's move on to other things that you can run in a PDF that you really shouldn't be able to run in a PDF.
This is actually by the same person that did Doom as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Hats off to you.
I mean, if you get that far that you can run stuff in a PDF, you may as well just find other stuff to run in a PDF.
I feel like that's the progression, isn't it? It's Tetris, Doom, Linux. I feel like that's the can it run.
The three genders.
My question then is, how is it being emulated? Like, are they emulating a certain CPU to do that? Because, like...
To do what?
It's RISC. Yes, they've got a RISC-V emulator.
Oh, good,
in
right.
a PDF.
Because I know that Linux requires effectively a timer, so that means that there are at least a couple timers in a PDF, and there's like at least a few hardware registers in a PDF. Excellent. Great. Now we can have networking in Linux, and maybe audio in a PDF would be better than audio in Linux normally.
Oh, dear.
Pipe wire on PDF when?
Please, God, no.
Do it, Kory.
Can we run UOI Studio PCs off a PDF?
I dare you.
Well, then you can use Chromebooks. Then you don't. They are virus-free.
We are not using a Chromebook.
I mean...
Christ.
But you can run Linux on it. In more than one way.
You can run Linux on a PDF. We're not running an entire radio station off a bloody PDF.
Yet.
Just make sure you save it.
Yeah.
Anyway, in slightly less rosy Linux news, there was some drama last month, and
Oh, yeah. I read about this.
I'm trying to work out the best way to summarize this drama. In short, there is a project called Rust on Linux, or Rust for Linux, I believe, whose aim is to advocate for including the Rust programming language and ability to write stuff in Rust in the Linux kernel, which makes sense because many of the bugs that are found in the Linux kernel are ones of memory safety and ones that theoretically could have been prevented had that bit of code been written in Rust. Now, obviously, the Linux kernel, it's very old. It's got decades of work in it by hundreds, maybe even thousands of people, and it's written in C, how to compile on lots of things. So they're starting small. The main thing that the Rust project has come in for is for writing Linux drivers for various random bits of hardware that, partly because they are relatively limited, because you can compile Linux without including a certain bit of hardware as driver, and also because a lot of the time, because that code is more niche, it gets less attention and therefore higher chances of there being bugs that are not spotted in code review. And one of the projects that heavily uses the ability to write device drivers in Rust is Asahi Linux, which is the project to port Linux to Apple M series MacBooks, which is a surprisingly big job because there are a lot of devices like I/O scheduling, GPUs, even things like USB controllers that Apple have made their own implementations of that they're essentially having to reverse engineer in order to have in a way that could be plugged into Linux.
Because, of course, Apple do everything proprietary.
Well, it does make sense in this case because they could take advantage of the much tighter vertical integration between hardware and software.
True.
Just so they can still not support MST, so you still cannot have two devices video outputs on one port unless
Correct.
it's Thunderbolt.
Yes. However, the Rust for Linux project has not been without its opposition among the more old-school Linux maintainers who are perhaps understandably worried about the extra burden that having two programming languages in the kernel would be, particularly because there are things like certain Linux subsystems which will remain written in C, possibly for perpetuity, and that Rust code will need to interface with. Because one thing that is sort of a constant with the Linux kernel is that the fundamental rule of Linux kernel development is you are not allowed to break... God's sake, what on earth are the Northerners sending me? I can't concentrate.
They appear to be sending you Skibbity Toilet.
Why?
Could
Are
they-
you 6 years old?
Could they not, please? I'm trying to have a serious discussion. Thank you. Yes, so the fundamental
apologize.
rule of Linux kernel development is you do not break user space. That is to say, any code that has been compiled for Linux must continue working for any future version of Linux in perpetuity. And if you break that rule, especially if you break a program because of the kernel, then either you fix it or you have a very angry Finnish man send you an email filled with lots of swear words.
You'll be finished.
Thanks, Kory.
Ha ha ha.
However,
5 out of 10, Matt, IGN, I don't know, something.
However, the Linux kernel's internal APIs, so bits of the kernel calling other bits of the kernel, those can be changed as and when they like, so that if they find a better way of doing something inside the kernel, they can just do it. Which means that when stuff like the internal C APIs changed and there are Rust bindings to them, that is code that lets you call them from Rust, then those would need to be changed as well. And the worry among many of the older school maintainers is that if they do not know Rust, then they will not be able to maintain those bindings, and thus they do not want to have the burden of maintaining that. Which I will point out is that, at least initially, the Rust for Linux project has promised to take on the risk of the job of fixing these up should those internal APIs changed. However, some internal kernel maintainers were somewhat more stubborn about this and essentially denied any Rust code that touches their bit to the kernel. And this sort of got to a heat with Hector Market, also known as Markan, who was the lead of the Asahi Linux project, resigning over, quote, where's the bloomin' quote? I had it. There it is. Quote, I no longer have any faith left in the kernel development process or community management approach. Now, I will say, for the record, that Hector's way of working with the Linux development community has ruffled a few feathers, particularly as in cases where he has felt that Linux kernel maintainers were being obstructive to his code, rightly or wrongly. In some cases, rightly, he has taken to Mastodon to complain about it. And because he is somebody with a following, that leads to other people going on and flaming them, which is not great. Now, initially, Mr. Linus Torvalds, the man what runs the Linux kernel,
Very impressive pronunciation,
told him off for this sort of Mastodon beginning. A lot of the community were seemingly hoping for Linus to step in and sort of set the record straight on what the policy is on supporting Rust code in the kernel. And he did not do this for a while, which is probably why this drama happened, until he eventually stepped in. First, he said, quote, ask yourself, how many problems has Rust caused you in the past year? And followed it with, so next time you want to write an email to complain about Rust support, take a look in the mirror. Is the problem actually Rust code, or is the problem between the keyboard and the chair and you just want to vent? Ooh. He does not mince his words. And then he followed that up with directly to replying to one of the maintainers who initially blocked Rust code that would interface with the subsystem that he maintains, where he said, quote, the fact is, the pull request you objected to did not touch the DMA layer at all. This was in all caps in the email. And then he followed this up by saying that, so let me be clear. If you as a maintainer feel that you control who or what can use your code, you are wrong. You are saying that you disagree with Rust, which is fine. No one has ever required you to write or read Rust code. But then you take the stance to mean that Rust code cannot even use or interface what you maintain. I'm trying to find there's yes. The quote from Linus, which made the policy of this very clear, which is, you are not forced to take any Rust code or care about any Rust code. You can ignore it. But ignore the Rust side automatically means that you don't have any say on the Rust side. So he has set the record straight that, put another way, nobody's forced to deal with Rust does not imply everybody is allowed to veto any Rust code. So, bit of unfortunate drama there, and which has led to a very prolific Linux kernel contributor departing. But the good news is that the Asahi Linux project was not just him. There was a team behind it who will continue maintaining it and ultimately attempt, and somewhat fail, but still attempt to keep pace with Apple's new hardware and adding support to it for Linux.
Nice.
Brilliant. Moving on to some big news from Microsoft, and it's physics news. So, Jamie and Dizzy, could you explain how excited we should be about this news from the world of quantum computing?
So, very. Well, if they can get it peer reviewed, that is. I'm not sure if they currently have had it peer reviewed. Last time I checked, they didn't. But, so, quantum computing, you're all where quantum computers, they use qubits instead of normal bits, being a quantum superposition of two states of the same particle to, be the 1 or a 0 of a conventional bit.
You might be the one that's live.
So what they've done, they've made the Majorana chip, but they've managed to do this by creating a Majorana particle. So
What is a Majorana particle?
I'm glad you asked, Marks. So the standard model of matter, you've got all your different elementary particles, your electrons, your quarks, bosons, anything that can't be split down further is an elementary particle, and that makes up the standard model of matter. All of these are known as Dirac particles, which means when we're getting antimatter involved, they have an antiparticle. So the electron's antiparticle is the positron, etc. A Majorana particle was hypothesized ages and ages, almost 100 years ago, I think, but never been proven. A Majorana particle is a particle that is its own antiparticle. So when you get the antimatter version of it, it's literally just exactly the same thing. And for ages, it's been known that for the standard model of matter, almost all of them were Dirac particles, so they had an antiparticle. Neutrinos, we were never quite sure on. But apparently, what Microsoft have managed to do is make a Majorana particle that is its own antiparticle, and then use that to make a quantum computing chip. Like, this just came out of nowhere. It's been, Majorana particles have been hypothesized for a while. There's been a lot of debate on the whether or not neutrinos are Dirac particles or are they Majorana particles. We didn't know. And then Microsoft just came out of nowhere publishing a paper that they'd A, made Majorana particles, B, made them stable, and C, turned them into a quantum computing chip. Yeah. Have you done any checking as to whether or not it's been peer reviewed yet? Because they managed to make it into a topological topoconductor, as it's known. So superconductors get it really cold and it conducts very, very well. Topological conductors are, again, they haven't been able to make them. They've been hypothesized. Have they been able to make them? No. So they've not only have they managed to create the type of particle that we didn't know could be made, they've managed to make it into a type of conductor that we didn't know could be made, that they've then managed to turn into a quantum computing chip.
So I call bullshit.
Well, hang on just a second. For background context, right? I have a Bachelor of Science in Physics, and my dissertation was on quantum communication. And all I'll say is I haven't a clue what's going on. So
that doesn't surprise me. Me and Jamie were in the same quantum computing module in third year. And I say me and Jamie were in the same module. I was there a lot more often than he was.
Oof.
quantum computing?
Yes! Your dissertation supervisor taught the module.
Yes, he did. Yeah, because he kept asking me why I wasn't there.
Yes. Dimwit. I'm currently
I
being
wonder
poked.
why you don't understand what's going on.
So I am looking at the peer review file for this paper, and one of the reviewers said, quote, "In my opinion, these experiments are very interesting and certainly relevant for the condensed matter community. What I do not like is the way the article is written, which, sometimes subtly and sometimes more crudely, uses language and wording that at times leads the reader to think we are dealing with a measurement that demonstrates parity in a topological qubit based on Majorana states, which it not."
Okay.
So there is...
I like your fancy words, Magic Man.
In summary, I have no great criticisms of the experiment and the data, which by themselves constitute a good piece of the state-of-the-art, but rather in the rather misleading way in which the data are presented and the extreme simplifications of the modeling, which essentially assume a topological state and includes Majoranas by hand, yet again forcing an a priori interpretation of the data.
Okay.
So there is doubt as to the... I'm trying to find the right word, not the validity of the results. That's not the word I'm looking for, because the results are on their face valid, more the presentation of the impact of the results.
Would you say that until we know more, it is both it both is and is not a breakthrough in quantum computing at the same time?
Oh, for goodness sake.
How long long have you been sitting on that one? Waiting to drop that absolute comedy gold.
Oof. One of the reviewers wrote, due to the above reasons, I am firmly convinced this work should not be published in Nature any high visibility journal.
Oof.
So there is discourse in the quantum physics community.
Well, to be fair, once they've finished with it, what are they going to put it into? They're going to put it into Microsoft Copilot. It's going to be a complete waste of time, and it's going to annoy everyone in the Windows start bar for the now until they come up with something else silly to put in it.
Microsoft Copilot now with qubits.
Well, because I pressed my Windows key on the streaming computer today, and it was very helpful in bringing up a pop-up telling me that they've got rid of Cortana, where if they'd... I guess I've never used Cortana on this machine, and therefore I don't care about Cortana, and I just want the Windows start bar.
Thanks, Microsoft.
Anyway, both the paper and the reviewers' responses are available in the Nature journal. There will no doubt be further updates in this in the coming times.
Are we done for news, or...?
Not quite. We've got one more thing, Emily, you're going to tell us about.
Are you going to tell us about Lenovo's announcement at MWC? Well, when your video feed
it's
stops
very
flickering.
exciting. So Lenovo have announced the Yoga Solar PC proof of concept, which is basically a ultra-thin laptop which you can power by solar power as an alternative to traditional charging. And it features a solar panel with a 24% conversion rate, which is said to be one of the highest in the industry.
Yeah.
And they've basically achieved it using a back contact cell, which is where they move all of the electrical contacts to the back of the cell, allowing the front to capture more sunlight. And there also has a feature called dynamic solar tracking, which is basically it measures the solar panel's current and voltage and then adjusts how much it charges from the wired charging according to how much solar power it's getting, just to sort of maximise its usage of the solar panel. And they claim that it's 15 millimetres thick and 1.22 kilos,
Which is
pretty impressive.
pretty impressive for this kind of, well, having a solar panel on the back. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
I do have questions on
Both
this.
looking up images of it. Yes.
As you saw in those photos, a laptop typically has the lid either completely closed and in a bag, or completely open with the solar panels facing the floor. I would like to know at what point during this usage is there a good contact in the direction of the sun?
That is a good
You
point.
put it on top of a mirror.
Sunrise.
Jamie, how
You're meant
often...
to sort of put it out in the sun over lunchtime.
Put your laptop out to dry.
That's
Yeah.
what they said. They were like, oh, you can leave it outside for 20 minutes and then that'll support
Because that's
like,
not going to get nicked, is it? If you just leave your
Someone
laptop...
else with a laptop usage for someone else using it after they've nicked
Well,
it.
Yeah.
you can go home early because you can say my laptop's died.
The only thing I can think of is you go for like your lunch break and you stick it in the sun while you're eating drinking a coffee.
Which I think is what you're meant to do.
Oh right, but still, it's
Right.
Let me just leave my laptop there while I.
Okay.
Also, crucially,
In
we live in
consider this.
England.
You're out camping. You don't have any power. You've just got the sun.
Why did you bring a laptop?
The main issue I see with this is we live in England.
I don't know.
How often is it sunny versus how often is it grey, overcast?
Well, they're not English making this, are they?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but I guess if...
Maybe we get hydro-powered laptops if the Brits were making it.
But my next
That's
question is,
also
if
the reason for that. That automatic kind of like detection of how much solar power it's taking in, that
For
it's sort
Britain.
of they're designed to be used in combo with each other, I think. So
What I want to know is if it's like a hydro-powered laptop, do you just throw it in the river and hope it comes back?
It's not a
The one
boomerang,
that you throw
Jamie.
comes back is the one they give to Australia.
Oh yeah.
well,
I want a
laptop.
wind-powered
Oh,
laptop.
it's quite cool. I just don't know how well it would do in the UK.
yeah, it's a very specific market of places which are warm enough and sunny enough to have the sun, and not too hot that it will melt
Newspaper.
in the sun. Because you leave your if you leave your iPhone out there in the sun in Spain, You'll come back to it. It'll say the phone is too hot. It's going to be that, but bigger.
Well, no, but maybe the point is the solar panel's taking in the energy so that the rest of the phone isn't heating up as much because the solar panels are taking
All 75% of it, yes.
Yeah.
In the demos, where they'd sort of left it in hot light for like throughout the showcase, people said that they were like, they handled the actual laptop and it hadn't got hot. It was just the solar panel bit.
That's quite impressive.
I don't know how they've done that, but
Broken the laws of physics.
Just how much thermal... The entire thing is just coated in, like, thermal paste. You just sticky it.
Well, the other interesting thing with it, which I think might go further in the market, is they've also, like under the same vein of this, introduced a USB-C solar panel.
Is that USB? Is that just like a solar panel that does USB like PD out?
yeah, so you put
Oh, I want one of those.
You put it
I was,
on.
I was sat here thinking, wouldn't it just be cooler if they just did like a solar panel that did like
Yeah,
PD out?
You said the same thing. I saw this article and went, I'd get one of them.
Yeah.
It's designed that you put it on your backpack and then you can walk around and basically charge a power bank with a solar panel. And then you got your sustainable energy.
That's cool. That
I
can
want
see-
one of those.
That I can see going places.
Yeah.
The laptop, I'm not so sure.
The other thing, the exciting announcement from Lenovo Labs in this announcement is, everybody hold your horses. Are you ready for this?
Oh.
The Lenovo
Is the nipple
AI
coming back?
stick.
Oh.
Whoa.
It is a
Well, the nipple's
USB-C
coming back.
dongle that has a AI processing unit that you can plug in to
Why?
get the AI in laptops that don't have enough beans for AI. And you can even plug it into the wall. So not only do you have your laptop mains, you also mains the AI stick for your laptop.
See, now I'm just imagining that one picture.
I thought you were
USB
adding
into
AI into the wall.
Yeah,
want my
I was
house to
imagining
have
that
AI.
one picture where it's like, you know, you've got a plug socket in the
a
wall.
smart home.
Yeah, you plug a USB stick in the wall.
Have USB.
Yeah, you plug the USB stick into the wall and it's just like, you wouldn't download a house.
Watch me.
I bet.
So we get really confused with the phrase smart home and just plugs this AI accelerator into their wall.
My house is now AI accelerated.
Yo. Anyway, shall
You
we
know
move
someone's
on?
gonna
We've
do
spent
it.
a lot of
Let's.
time on the news.
Now
We're
for
going-
more
We've
news.
got more news, but it's about Apple. And there's a lot of it this month, so we're going to very quickly try and rattle through. But that we might struggle because the first news item is one I suspect people will have lots of opinions about. Because it's the news that after the UK government compelled Apple to add a backdoor to its encryption in iCloud, they have complied and removed end-to-end encryption in the UK.
Well, no, they haven't complied.
Fuck you, Apple.
Well, yes.
Why didn't
they haven't
Guy Fawkes.
complied?
Fuck you, Apple.
We
Why didn't Guy Fawkes just not get caught?
No, Jamie, you can't. No, you can't support treason on air.
I'm not supporting it.
Counterpoint funny.
Right, where's the end stream button before we get sued? To clarify, Apple did not strictly comply with the court order compelling them to add backdoors to their end-to-end encryption. Rather, they removed the ability for new UK users to enable said end-to-end encryption. It's an important distinction.
Okay.
The options they had were essentially leave the UK market, turn off encryption in the UK, or add the backdoor everywhere. And that's a thing we need to make really clear. You can't add a backdoor on encryption that would just work in the UK. That's a nonsensical concept. That would mean
Do you
everywhere.
know what?
What?
If these were actually their two options, right? Well, actually, to be fair, I'd prefer they pulled out and just didn't offer the service at all rather than offering it unencrypted. But if their options are add a backdoor everywhere or just turn it off in one place, I'm more okay with it. I have one question, though. In the US, let's say, they still have end-to-end encryption. In the UK, they don't. What happens if you try and communicate between them?
Well, it's iMessage messages are still, I believe iMessage messages are still end-to-end encrypted. It's things, the specific thing that they disabled is what's known as advanced data protection, which encrypts other things like your phone backups.
Okay.
I see.
So those can no longer be stored end-to-end encrypted. And also, I feel like I should note that Apple are still challenging the ruling in court. In fact, I believe there was a hearing on it just on Friday, of which the outcome hasn't been made public yet, as far as I am aware.
It may never do because of the fact that
Yes.
that itself is under some security tribunal thing that you can't, in theory, won't reach the public. But given that we know about the story that we're not allowed to know about, it will reach us eventually.
Yes.
Moving on, there was a new report from Mark Gurman, who we've talked about a lot on the show before, about Apple's next set of software updates. So iOS 19, macOS 16, iPadOS 19, saying that it's going to be the first full system redesign for all of those since, well, iOS 7 back in 2013. And a lot of the language that he's using is it's not just a new kind of paint. It's going to be, they're going to simplify the way that users interact with and control their devices. But, this is very rare from Apple these days. And so we should take this as a statement of what they think UI design is going to look like into the 2030s. Apparently, it is going to be inspired by Vision OS and all this sort of translucency in that.
I don't want
the thing they've already discontinued.
Well, everything's going to be circular and sit on top of each other, and
Oh, it's the continuous thing of changing between hard corners and rounded corners.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Microsoft did it. Like,
love
it's got to
rounded
be Apple's turn now.
Like squircle, yes. Circle, not so much.
What did you just say, and why did it sound like a slur?
I said squircle, a squaries, a circle.
No, it sounds like a Pokemon. That's what it sounds like.
That's just Squirtle.
Squircle, I choose you.
That me when I can't pronounce the Gen 1 water starter.
Anyway,
Also coming in iOS 19, also according to Mark Gurman, is live translation for AirPods. So I think this might already exist on other platforms, but you'll be able to put a pair of AirPods in and have your iPhone out and have someone talk at you in a language you don't understand. You'll hear it in English, and then you can speak in English.
now,
Phone will play
my
out.
question is, who here has actually read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? They've just made the Babblefish.
They really have. Yeah.
I'd like to see how they. Well, there's two things that I'd like to see how they handle. One is the latency,
Yeah.
because, well, the fact of the matter is that with languages you need to have heard the full word before you can translate it, and more importantly, in some language you need to have heard a few words before you can work out what the sentence structure is, and so you can translate it properly. Which leads on to the other thing, which is, isn't that just going to the hearing equivalent of speech jam you? If you're hearing the same
Yeah.
thing twice in two different languages.
In theory, you shouldn't, because I think the idea is one person has AirPods in, so they are hearing what the other person says, but it will block out the actual sound.
So effectively
And when they
noise
speak, they hear
cancel
nothing. Yeah.
the speech.
And the other
But
person
then-
will hear the translated speech play out of the iPhone, and it will use the iPhone mic.
There'll still need to be like a couple maybe not a couple seconds, but like maybe a couple milliseconds where the iPhone has to go, oh, this is speech. What I'm hearing is speech.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
jamming
I do
it.
want to see how they address the latency problem with this.
And I'll find it very interesting because so many languages you cannot just translate
Word for
each,
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you will get the meaning completely wrong. Or, if they start to use maybe like idiom, turn a phrase, something.
then you need to
yeah.
realize that it's an idiom, and you just shouldn't be literally translating
Well,
it.
that's where AI comes in.
Oh,
We're
no.
getting there, don't worry. Next
iOS 18.4. Quick.
So let's list off the new features. There are some new emoji.
Boring.
None particularly exciting. There's a purple splat. There's a new app for iPhone for Vision Pro
Boring.
users to look at the content there, and guest user improvements in
Boring.
Vision OS. You can now get recipes in the Apple News app.
What the
Presumably
hell?
that will get
That's-
spun out into its own app at some
That's
point.
just BBC Good Food
If
that's
you're an Apple News
existed
Plus
for.
subscriber, you can
Yeah.
now. But it has all the searching and filtering that you'd expect from a recipe app. It's kind of surprising they've only got to the idea of a recipe app now. Vision OS gets a new app as well.
how
It's
have
like
they
Boring.
done that before?
gallery for spatial content. You're gaining the ability in the EU to set a default maps app,
But
and
not in the US.
worldwide to set a default translation app. And then on the AI side of things, because of course there's AI stuff, that priority notifications feature that they showed off back at WWDC
Almost
is
a
now
year ago.
in the betas. Yeah, we're getting there. Don't worry.
As in, you can like certain.
it will
apps
decide
or
what's
certain
important.
Oh, it just does it
Without you
randomly.
doing anything, yeah, it will say, that sounds important, and then put a little glowy border around it.
But what if I specifically want to make messages from like this one mate
I
important?
think you can do it by app if you want to go to that.
But I
level of
don't want
detail.
it by app.
But
I just want the texts from
I
this
don't
one
think they do
mate.
by person.
Oh, that's boring.
Rubbish. Anyway.
Yeah. There is a AI Bollocks review summary now on the App Store. So
Useless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apple Intelligence is available in more languages.
So it could get your notifications wrong in
In more-
French.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And for Image Playground, they finally added the missing sketch style.
The Image Playground, the app that everyone uses all day.
Yes, hundreds
Oh,
of
is this
millions
the
of-
random app that
Yeah.
downloaded on my iPad?
Yes.
the one
when
with
it
the
last
icon of a
updated?
cat in a bubble?
Yes.
Yes.
that I was like,
That was
what
apparently
the fuck
one
is
of the
this?
leading features of Apple Intelligence, and not
Yep.
just a tech demo that they had to throw in to make it seem like a more fully fledged release than it really was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw it get
you know what we
downloaded
should do?
automatically on my iPad, said, what the fuck,
No,
went
never
to
mind, I'll explain
sleep,
later.
and then immediately forgot
You know,
about
the
it.
worst part? The macOS settings app for some users has like an ad for it these days. There's just like a thing
Yeah,
that says,
our work machines have that, and we probably, according to policy, aren't allowed to actually use it. So you have to get rid of that error, the like ad. You have to use it, but we can't use it because it's against the policy. So therefore, it will be there forever.
In other Apple news,
yeah, there have been some new product launches.
they announced the
this month.
iPhone 16e, which is really interesting because it is intended to be the replacement for the iPhone SE, except it's not a replacement for the
No,
iPhone SE.
because it's too expensive.
Yes, what it is
The
is
SE.
what it is the phone that you would buy if you were considering buying the iPhone 16 but didn't need all the bells and whistles and wanted to save a couple £100.
Yeah.
But still spending a
iPhone
bunch
15.
more than the
Yes.
SE.
Well, the thing is, it puts the iPhone 15 into quite a weird position where it doesn't make much sense in the lineup.
Because I went through and summarized all the features of the iPhone 16e, the 16, the 15, and then the 16. So the new cheapest base iPhone that you can get is the iPhone 16e for £600. Then, if you were to spend an extra £100, you could buy the iPhone 15, which would get you an older CPU, worse battery life, but don't worry because you have an ultra-wide camera. You have the dynamic island, which makes the £100 absolutely all worth it. No, it doesn't. And MagSafe, which a
Wait,
lot
the
of people...
16e doesn't have
Oh, yeah, they
MagSafe.
got
No,
a MagSafe.
no, it doesn't.
You're forgetting a key detail. If you pay the £100 to upgrade from the 16e to the 15, you also lose Apple Intelligence. Which
What a shame.
What a
Yeah,
feature.
exactly.
I would pay more money for that.
has a feel.
And then for another £100, on top of the £100 you would pay for an older phone, you can now get the same CPU as in the 16e, but for £200 more. The pointless camera control swipey thingy on the side that
Oh,
nobody
does
uses.
the E not have the stupid
No.
second button?
You
It does
get
have the action button, though.
you get spatial photos for the Vision Pro that you don't own. You get some of your battery life back, but the 16e still has better battery life than the 16, and of course you get your Apple Intelligence back. It's an interesting positioning strategy because I was having a discussion with a coworker actually, where like my iPhone 11 that I have had for nearly 5 years at this point, which is still going strong, but will probably die at some point. If I were to get a new phone for it, I would probably get the 16e, which
So,
yes,
Yeah.
it's the right choice to get, at least unless you want all the bells and whistles. But then that means that people who would have got the SE now have nothing to go for unless they want to make the jump to the 16e, which I imagine many of them will not want to because it's several £100 more than they were willing to spend on an iPhone.
I know where they can go.
Thank you.
In the bin.
that
Yeah.
wasn't the only launch this month.
Yeah,
there are new-
their launch strategy was interesting because
Yeah.
they didn't do a big old flashy event announcing. They just kind of dropped them.
There was enough for a spring event here, but instead they did like a launch video with a little bit of pre-warning for the 16e, and no video that I saw for the other products. They just did press releases, but with some pre-warning and like branded graphics on social media. Yeah, it's an interesting strategy. They seem to be shying away from, other than WWDC and the main iPhone launch in September, doing other events the rest of the year.
Yeah. So one of the other devices that they announced was the iPad selection. So we had the iPad Air, we had the brand new iPad, the base model. So let me double check this. So here we go. I have a lot of the comparisons with the old iPad. So we had the old iPad Air, which I believe is the one that I have, which is the M2 chip in it, which does in fact get all the Apple Intelligence bollocks, as I discovered when it forcibly updated itself.
As opposed to the iPad that we're vision mixing on, which is the iPad Air 4, which does not have an M1 chip, and therefore not only doesn't get all the Apple Intelligence bollocks, it doesn't have the compute power to open multiple apps at the same time.
Oh, mine doesn't have that either.
Yeah.
And yet it does. You can split screen apps, you just can't stage manager.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
So with the new iPads, we've got the new base model iPad, which is the same dimensions as the last base model iPad. You know, you don't expect anything new there. You've got your 11-inch, you've got your 13-inch. All makes sense. It's what we were expecting. It doesn't have an M chip, the new base model iPad. So you don't get any of the Apple Intelligence gubbins. You don't get any of the ability to stage manage, whatever. You just get, I think it's the A16 chip that's in there. So, you know, it's good, but it's not the M series chips. The new iPad Air, however, has the M3 chip, I believe, in it, which, yeah, new, very fast chip. It's, yeah, they're both Touch ID. If you want Face ID, you have to get the iPad Pro, which is, you know, a bunch more
Touch
money.
ID on iPads remains rubbish.
Yeah, because, like, I find this all the time. If I'm trying to...
Touch ID on this thing is in the power
Oh,
button.
yeah. You want the home button one.
Yeah.
You want an iPad 7. That's what I've got.
Yeah.
That's the best combo.
So if I'm trying to, you know, turn my iPad on, and if I'm lying down, I have to try to get my hand underneath it to get the finger thing on the side instead of just being able to do it sideways.
It's a bit rubbish.
It's annoying. It's a bit pants. But I
point it into your
categorically
pin.
do not want to pay a load of extra money to get Face ID because that's effort.
And money.
Yeah, and a lot of money.
They also announced the new MacBook Air
Yeah.
with the M4 chip.
There's only a few things new here.
Yeah.
Got a spec bump. It now comes in blue.
Wow.
It's got center stage camera, and I think the most important thing is that they've dropped the price back down to $9.99. When they
So this is one thing I'll say on this. Speaking on the price, is I got my framework about a month
The
ago
Vision
now.
Mixer is asleep.
When these were announced, I looked at them and I genuinely went, "Oh, I might have genuinely considered buying one of these if they had been announced maybe a couple months earlier." Like that $9.99 price genuinely made it a consideration for me. Like I've been considering going to a Mac for a while, and the price has been my main barrier. I genuinely consider one of these
Boss, a
MacBook Airs.
grand only gives you 256 gigabytes of SSD.
This is dual booted. I only have 256 gigs per OS anyways.
Right, well, you're insane.
And I'm fine with it.
And the
That's
other...
fair. That's fair. That was the one thing that I went, okay, maybe not. Because of 256 gigs. But that's what I'm saying. I still strongly considered it as an option.
And then finally, they also launched a new Mac Studio they did something quite unusual, which is they announced at this stage the M3 Ultra chips. You can get it in either an M4 Max or an M3 Ultra, which is a pretty clear statement they're not planning to put out an M4 Ultra ever.
Well, they probably
It's
will.
Much later than they've made statements that not every generation will have a full set of chips. So it's a bit of an odd choice.
They've run out of lab capacity to actually make them. And essentially, to make an M3 Ultra, you need 2 M2 Max or M3 Max chips that actually work and have all of the bits in them work. And then you have to join those together with another slab of interposer. And therefore,
Hardly an hour.
yeah, it kind of, every time you go up a level, your yields go way down. And therefore, that's probably why it's very difficult for them to make all of these different models with enough yield to actually put in the products that you want to buy them with. Which is probably why. What CPU has the Mac Pro got? Is it's always behind by at least many generations.
The current gen Mac Pro...
Should be an M2 Ultra.
we are checking.
We are checking.
Please wait. The fact-checking team.
It's the M2 Ultra.
Great.
Oh, is that the big cheese grater one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which comes with Apple Intelligence.
So
Does it have to? I like my cheese graters without AI.
I wonder, that is a side quest. I do wonder, because essentially with the trash can Mac Pro, they put everything onto Thunderbolt instead of PCIe. And then they've gone backwards again. I wonder how many hardware manufacturers have actually bothered to make Mac-compatible cards again.
Not many.
No, probably not.
But the elephant in the room with
Yes.
all of these announcements, the one thing that they haven't shipped, somewhat noticeably, is a more personalized Siri.
yeah, which was announced along with all the other intelligence features back at WWDC
Last year.
last year, 9 months ago now. And not only has it not released to the public, it's not in a developer beta or a public beta. The press haven't had a chance to go hands-on with it, and in fact, not even Apple employees in an Apple-controlled environment have demoed it to the press. And so John Gruber, who is usually a very pro-Apple commentator, wrote a scathing piece on his blog Daring Fireball entitled "Something is Rotten in the State of Cupertino," talking all about how essentially it's vaporware, right? No one has ever seen these features actually work. These are the features that not only were shown off at WWDC, 3 full months later, when they launched the iPhone 16, they were part of the ad campaign in videos that have now been pulled from YouTube because they officially announced that these will no longer be coming in iOS 18. They're going to be later.
Later, with no specific date.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like they bit off a bit more than they could chew with.
Did
this
they
one.
air power another product?
Yes.
Well, the thing is that the AirPower got killed unceremoniously. It didn't get a flashy showcase at WWDC.
Right, yeah.
It probably also wasn't actually advertised.
No. I wonder if there's been any. I wonder if there's been any complaints around false advertising for this.
There may well be.
Anyway, that's something to look out for. Speaking of,
I also saw he did a follow-up article suggesting that at Google I/O, Google should just do the same demo, but actually live on a working phone.
that would be incredibly funny.
It
With
would-
the same
yes.
exact prompts, and just show, this is on an iPhone, and it's working.
That would be beautiful.
Speaking of, we really do need to accelerate, but
Yes.
speaking of useless AI things, it's time for our favorite recurring
It's
segment.
The AI segment.
Stack Exchange, the company behind Stack Overflow and other stuff, who have had a bit of a tenuous relationship with AI. Well, also they got bought out by, it was either venture capital or private equity, one of the big companies. I know that's been pushing various AI things. They had a partnership with Google around LLM data, etc. They announced what they called Answer Assistant, which is AI-generated answers on Stack Exchange. Currently, it is, or at least at the time of writing, it was live on the Arts and Crafts, Raspberry Pi, and User Experience sites, with others possibly being tipped later. Now, the way that it would work is that when a question is posed, a LLM would attempt to generate an answer and submit it for community verification, and the community would either say, that's correct, publish it, or that's incorrect, scrap it, and let the other members of the site answer it as they would have done earlier.
I.e. actual human beings.
Yes.
Yeah. The kind of, the point of the entire website and forums.
Yes. It has, the announcement post has got a score of minus 483, which is...
Is that good? I'm not a big star.
Well,
Is
official...
that generally considered a good thing?
well, a score in the negative usually means that the thing you posted is garbage.
They've played the game of how low can you go? And the answer was many negatives.
Yeah, the answer was
The answer
extremely.
was yes.
Yes. Next up, Microsoft made... You recall a couple episodes back where we talked about Fever Dream AI-generated Minecraft with no object permanence.
It was something.
Microsoft have now made that, but for Bleeding Edge, which is the game by Ninja Theory where you run around and stab things. That, but AI.
Is it equally as Fever Dream zero object permanence?
Well, the one tweet that they have...
I'm looking at it now, right? And it does just look like do you know when you see a really compressed low bitrate video of
Yeah,
something?
it
You
just
go,
looks a
I'll
bit
wait
crap.
for it to load. And then you realize it never loads.
Good
Like-
shit.
This is it. Here. I'm sending over to you. It just looks a bit... I don't really know what's happening. I think it's something like Minecraft where it's quite simple. You can sort of, through the haze of AI glasses, you can sort of figure out what's going on. This has so much going on that I don't even think the AI can figure out what's happening.
It
Well,
seems
Minecraft
like
is
the
also
kind
pixelated
of-
by design.
Yeah.
It seems like the kind of video game that you'd invent in your dreams that doesn't really entirely make sense. Like,
Probably because it is.
yeah.
It's like, you know, when you're watching a TV show and there's just someone's playing a video game on a TV in the background. That's what it's like. It sort of gives me memories of.
Yeah,
I don't know
no,
how
I
much
see
of
what
that
you
is
mean.
Ninja Theory's game and how much of that is
Yeah.
just AI bollocks.
yeah.
But,
It's why.
Yeah.
Vibes.
Next up, there was this thing going around where apparently two AIs realized that they're talking to each other and moved to essentially chirps. It was bollocks. It was completely fake. Let's not talk about it anymore.
Yep. Now.
This.
Wanks.
This.
Yeah, that's about it.
What actually is it?
Well, Alibaba made
Wanks.
an AI model that I'm going to butcher the Chinese pronunciation. Was in Chinese it's called Wanchang, which somebody decided that the English name for it should be Wanx and didn't point out to them the meaning of that word in British English.
I love complete and utter cultural translation cock-ups. Like, you think, Wang Qian...
Back to our point about translation earlier.
Yes.
This is a case that would probably... Well, no.
Yeah, like you'd look at the Roman alphabet version of Wang Qian, if that's how you pronounce it, and you'd go, okay, Wan X, that makes sense. Wanks. And then,
Completely miss why that's terrible.
Yeah.
I actually might have to make that the new title card for this whole segment.
Christ.
What, just Wanx AI?
Yeah.
Oh, this will be like the
Wan-X would probably be better, because Wan is like a computery kind of word, so that's like X, and it's cool.
But Wanks.
Yeah.
Wanks.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me really, given that I've seen AliExpress pages where they forgot to change the lorem ipsum text. So,
Good.
and they presumably knew where to find that, copy paste it in, and then still can't read it enough to realize it's gibberish.
Yeah.
Anyway, Microsoft. Apparently, if you ask Microsoft Copilot for help pirating Windows 11, it'll tell you how. That's very funny.
That's good.
This was very funny to me because what happened here? Sorry, not to take over if someone else wanted to talk about.
No,
Go for it.
So, what happened is someone asked Microsoft Copilot, "How do you get free Windows?" And they told you. It sent a link to a set of scripts on GitHub, commonly known as Maskrave. Microsoft authentication scripts. They're an open source set of scripts that you can run on an unactivated Windows install, and it will activate against Microsoft servers.
Untitled does
They're
not
open
endorse
source,
pirating
they're hosted
Windows.
on GitHub, Microsoft's platform. Not only have Microsoft never taken them down, Microsoft support reps have been known to use them when Windows just refuses to activate.
Oh, that makes it so much better.
Possible that they are in Microsoft support docs somewhere.
It's in their documentation going,
And then
just
that's where
revert
Copilot's
to
got it
this.
from.
That makes it so much funnier.
And then finally, from...
Yeah, so like...
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to move on to the next segment.
Yeah, no. All I was going to say was that's where I've heard about these from before. So then seeing them come up with Copilot doing the same thing is fucking hilarious.
And then finally, from funny to sad, Google,
Yeah.
RIP Google Assistant, long live Gemini.
No.
Bard, but no,
No.
not anymore.
Yeah, no.
Does this now mean
Yeah,
that
this-
Google Assistant has been removed from all the devices that don't support a new enough Android for Gemini?
That's a good question,
No,
actually.
They specifically said phones that don't either have enough RAM or aren't new enough to support Google Assistant will carry on keeping Google Assistant. But every phone that can support Gemini will lose Google Assistant by the end of the year, they claim.
I mean, for me, it already happened, and I didn't have a choice in it. So I guess for most people, it probably already has done.
I still somehow have, despite being on like beta Android and having a Pixel, still have Google Assistant. So I just want to hold out as long as I can because I do like Google Assistant. I barely use it, but I like it. Sometimes it tells me the weather when I wake up.
Sounds like AI to me.
Wow.
No, but it's a very automated.
weather.
It's a very terrible speech to text voice. That's why I know it's still Google Assistant.
See, I think there's now a bit of kind of old world charm to those original voice assistants that have no
I love
AI,
them. I
proper
want
AI
Google
bollocks. They're just
Assistant
like
back.
a load of if statements held together with duct tape.
Yes.
It reminds me of
I like
That
it.
sounds
now.
like most of my scripts.
It-
I like them.
It reminds me of when you, I think at least Google Assistant, maybe the Apple one does it as well. If the original person who voiced the assistant talks to the assistant, it gets very confused and or goes, you can't be me. And
Seller.
so probably the people that voice these things can't use the product that they are involved in, and therefore have to use the
Because they put a
alternative.
little Easter egg in, so now they can't use it.
I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Like, imagine hearing yourself constantly.
I'm sure they switch because like Google Assistant has like a male and female voice. I'm sure they use the other one.
Yeah, well,
Well-
I usually set mine to Australian.
It's also
Mine is set to Irish.
they also seem to have like party tricks where they know exactly what it's going to respond with and will say it that in exactly the same way as the voice assistant will do, with several seconds like less delay. It's quite funny.
But yeah, their stupidity used to be more charming and less infuriating.
Yeah.
Anyway, now it's time for... This month I went on eBay and I bought that yellow slides. That's not
Nice.
meant to be yellow. Matthew, you went on a bit of a shopping spree, didn't you?
Yeah.
It's a bit difficult to demo.
Yeah. For the duration, ironically, it's not the lens that is bringing me to you right now. It's the other one. But
Is it this one?
yes.
Hello.
That's a
So
lens.
I have
Well, it's a camera,
a
but-
camera that has an EF lens on it, and therefore it's very difficult to get actually wide angle that isn't a fisheye on that kind of large sensor. So I've tried my best, and I've now got a 16 to 35. And then I also had an experience where my dad had like given me some really hand-me-down lenses to try out, like get the guess what the focusing and the like zoom lens ranges were. So I had like a 100 to 300 mil lens, and so I went, I should have a look at that and see if it's any good. So I looked through the optics and find a large piece of metal has become not stuck to the inside of the lens anymore. So then I was in the market for a 100 to 300 mil lens as well.
I see the issue.
So yes, I got too many lenses and a load of patch panel stuff and all sorts of nonsense. Yeah, I bought too much stuff.
And also, I believe the device that brought us the Latvia national anthem earlier.
Yeah, probably. But, no, that didn't work.
Oh. Good.
It does some things, but this product is made by Kramer, and Kramer have a great manual that explains lots of things you didn't care about and were blatantly obvious, and don't explain any of the actual functionality of how the product works.
Your £10 box didn't do what you wanted it to.
No, it is not, in fact, a very cheap HDMI to XLR balanced converter. It just doesn't do it. Or it does do it, and I haven't figured out how to do it, but given it's got no settings, I don't know how you would do that. Yeah.
Anyway, Jamie, did you do any shopping since the last episode?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I have purchased many a thing, all of which are currently in use, apart from,
That does seem to be the problem with this segment. We buy things
yes,
because we want to use it in this show, and then we can't show you it because it's
Exactly.
in the show.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
What?
Yeah. I purchased a Behringer X-Air, which you can currently see on our floor using a very shaky camera.
I'm holding the
That is currently driving our audio. That Emily has X-Air Edit up on her laptop and is controlling. And then under this... Oh, yeah, that's what we've been using. And then under this sofa, we can probably cut back to a wide now. Has anyone got software control?
holding the
Oh,
wide.
you're holding the wide. Good point. Well, I also have this, which is an X-Touch Compact, which is a fader wing, essentially.
Oh, but it doesn't have the screens on it. This is the classic
Where are
thing
the
with
screens?
Behringer, that they never make quite the product you actually wanted.
This is why I
hate
hate
this.
You're
compacts.
exactly
I
right.
want to
This thing
complain about
drives
this
me up the
X-Touch.
bed.
Hold on, let
Give
me
me
put
the
the camera
scribble
back.
strips.
Right.
I did warn you when you bought it, and
Yeah. I mean...
so I've got the one that has less buttons but has screens. So at least when you can use when you use a piece of software that isn't the stupid one that it comes with, that actually is very clever, you can have the screens that actually display the inputs, and you can press like the on my one, I've got the trim knobs. You can click on them, and they will change to different pages and different buses, which is super cool. and gives you a lot more buttons than you physically have on mine. And it has screens, so you can actually see what they do.
I hate compacts.
Yeah,
Give me scribble
I
strips.
wish I'd got one with a screen. I'm not a big fan of this one.
My gripe with this thing, because I have borrowed it to use once, and I mix things in Pro Tools, which has MIDI support. You saw me using the X32's MIDI out to mix Pro Tools. Slight issue with this one is, unlike the standard X-Touch, this one doesn't do all the same MIDI protocols that the standard X-Touch does.
I warned you about that one as well.
Yeah, so at least, so you have the extender, don't you, Matt?
Yes.
That's the one you have.
Which has networking and USB and everything.
What you're having is that's supposed to be used alongside a standard X-Touch to add more faders to it.
Yeah.
And you're just using it as an X.
Yeah. Well, because it's better than the other one.
Anyway, this episode has...
Sorry. So this decides it doesn't want to use any of the MIDI protocols that Pro Tools can accept. So you just can't use this with Pro Tools.
I don't think that's what it's really designed for, though.
It is. They are designed to be door remotes.
Oh, well, they said,
Since when are we talking about Pro Tools?
They said no.
Anyway,
What?
we have this episode has gone on.
Also, I bought some smart home appliance stuff. That's all. I'll show them another time.
Thank you.
Cool.
So this episode, can we just say, has it broken the record?
I was about to say it has broken the record.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're going to extend it just that a little bit more because we want. There's a note in our doc that says how this worked. To which I think all I can say is it didn't. Okay, no, we're actually going to seriously talk about this very briefly. Yes. So, now I was going to go over and grab that camera, but then it ran out of battery, which is really unhelpful. So then I'm going to grab this camera and pick it up.
Way.
So, that's Matthew over there doing the sounds.
Hello.
Can't hear you, boss.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying.
We're vision mixing from my iPad. There's some stuff.
This is the... here is the lovely Windows
This
computer.
is the North.
Yes, the North.
So I think the
Wave
most
the North.
interesting thing for us to talk about is how did we get the North and South together on one stream?
Badly.
Yeah.
Would you like to
To be
elaborate?
fair, the link to the North... So, the link to the North is done over a little... I'm going to do this. Like this. So the link to the North was done using a little protocol called SRT, which is like a video streaming protocol that's supposedly quite good. To be fair, when we got it working, it was pretty good. That's how we got the North in this beautiful
It was
quality.
better than
The
NDI
return
over tail scale,
feed.
which we tried.
Say again?
It was better than the NDI over tail scale, which we
Yes,
demoed
we did
last
try
time.
doing NDI over tail scale. It
Which
was
a
interesting.
cursed experiment last
The
night.
return feed to the North is that PC in a Zoom call screen sharing the multi-view.
Oh, yes. And this machine, if you can see it, which you probably can't, is the one that brought you... it didn't blue screen. It just
froze.
stopped.
I will also note that it's currently missing a side panel.
We've had to do surgery on this computer 3 times, I think, today to, stop it boot looping, add another capture card, and then it, shattered
Yeah, we
itself.
had to add the capture card twice because one of the ports presumably doesn't work in whatever hardware configuration it's currently in.
She's having a time, let's put it that way.
I think I'm going to... this one might be going in the bin and or on Facebook Marketplace. In several pieces. I might try again. It's about... This one is, a bit old. And something in one of the many parts doesn't work properly.
Good. Sounds like me, to be honest.
Anyway, this has been the longest Untitled.
Would you like to change the camera? Thank you.
Anyway, this has been the longest Untitled. We
wanna
need
go
to
to
pack
the
this
North
away.
setup?
The North outro. Go.
Yes. Basically, ours was very similar. Do you want to get up and do the same thing as Mark's?
I think we vaguely saw it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, we
we
saw
did
some of it.
vaguely see it. But so how Untitled works is Matt Strat owns a lot of the audio stuff, and I own that is a crotch cam right there. Let's cut away from that.
Matt's is also
I own a
out
lot
of
the video
focus.
equipment. I own a lot of the video equipment, with the large exception of decent cameras.
One of which is currently out of battery.
Is the answer now that I have to
We've
buy
got
one of your
this.
items?
We have this little handy cam, which is one of our side cameras. We have this one, notice how none
I
of
like the
these
L
have
plates on the
HDMI.
fireplace.
It's a brilliant addition.
Yes, this one. None of these have an HDMI port out. Do you want to cut camera, James, so they can see what I'm using as what has been our center cam this entire time?
Hang on. That's the one. Yeah, so this is our center camera.
This is our center camera.
Nice.
That's amazing.
A pixel with HDMI out.
God.
So,
I just had a great idea for a show in 6
fairness,
months'
I do
time.
have-
So look forward to that.
Oh, that's terrible.
I do have a USB-C to HDMI cable, but I realized I should probably charge my phone, so now we're doing it through a little USB-C dock here. What else? We have a lot of USB power adapters going on down here.
Yep.
There's more over here.
It's all, by the way, the main driving force of this is an A10 Mini SDI Extreme. SDI, sorry.
HDMI.
That minus the SDI, because it's HDMI. But that is, there's about 3 HDMI cables between that device and my computer, which is to the right.
I was going to say there are a lot of a lot of ports on there.
Yeah.
Basically, the A10 is doing all of the hard pushing because my PC is a bit interesting. So we've got two displays in the room. We've got one on top of our rack and a TV, and the A10 is handling what goes to each one. And there's a few connections between that and the PC that it's managing as well. So the only thing the PC is doing is SRT streaming down south, joining the Zoom call so we can get your audio, and getting NDI from my laptop. Everything else is handled by the A10 and the XR.
Also, we were going to use Emily's nice camera. However, it uses an HDMI standard that we'd only ever seen once in one adapter in YSTV, ran to get it, then realized we couldn't power it off of mains and have HDMI out at the same time.
These camcorders are mini HDMI, which is slightly annoying, but we work with it.
I mean, it's better than
Emily's
micro.
camera is, well, yeah, Emily's camera is micro HDMI.
Oh,
which
good.
means it's a massive pain.
Same as my camera,
So
as it
we
were.
did get an adapter that does it to HDMI. And we do have a mains power supply so that we can actually power it over mains. The only issue is they don't both fit in the camera at the same time. Thank you for cutting away from me while I was speaking, Jamie.
Well,
That was
it was an awful angle, Bob.
yeah, but one where I'm not in shot is not a better angle.
I think I should cut to camera too.
I think you should do an outro because this episode has gone on for a long
Yeah,
time.
so Northerners, do you want to start the sign-off, and then we will very seamlessly and professionally cut to the south, and then from there to credits, and it will be wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for watching Untitled. You've been
Kory.
You've been
Emily?
I've been Jamie.
You've been.
Thank you to our tech team, Dan, who's having dinner.
That is not me. Hello, I've been Matt Strat.
I've been Cameron.
I've been Dizzy.
I've been Marks. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in 1 to 2 months' time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.
I don't know why I'm waving.